أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعن عدوهم يا كريم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, your Laylatul Qadr was accepted, your a'mal were accepted in that night. You prayed for us, you prayed for my family. Inshallah, I prayed for you. And for the last 7 days of Shahr Ramadan, we have this limited time to get to Allah, to reach our goals, inshallah, attain the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I pray for all of you, my brothers and sisters, and I ask you to raise your hands in dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I pray for all of you, my brothers and sisters, that you reach the goal that you set for this month, whether it is to leave a habit, whether it is to start praying Salat al-Layl, whether it is to start praying Salat al-Fajr. Ultimately, the goal for everyone being also the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the riwayah says, Ash-Shaqi man hurrima ghufran Allah fi hadha ash-shahr. The meaning of the riwayah is the loser, the one who has lost a lot, is the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive in this month. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower you with his blessings, his forgiveness, his mercy. بحق محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Although the nights of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam are done, my brothers and sisters, in the musibah, the tragedy of Ali ibn Abi Talib has passed, we will still open this majlis with a salam to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam from now until the end of Shahr Ramadan, to keep the remembrance of Amir al-Mu'mineen and that fire burning in our hearts all the way until Eid. Because as you know, my brothers and sisters, Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, on that Eid, Sayyidah Zainab, Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein, on that Eid, not sure how much of a Eid it was for them. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. They observed it as Eid, but Eid is usually a day of celebration. But how can a person celebrate just a week after the death of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam? And so we will be with Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein, Sayyidah Zainab, Sayyidah Kulthum, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, the companions, the wives of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the family, and the Shia. Will be with them in these next nights, my brothers and sisters, with at least the salam on Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam delivered by all of us. So inshallah, that is what we are going to do and how we are going to begin each and every session. Bi'awnillah ta'ala. We will begin, inshallah, with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا حبيب الله. Peace and blessings be upon you, ya Rasul Allah. Peace and blessings be upon you, O beloved of Allah. Sallallahu alayka ya mawlai wa ibn mawlai ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Peace and blessings be upon you, Ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Sallallahu alayka ya Mawlai. وابن مولاي يا أمير المؤمنين. Peace and blessings be upon you, O my master, and the son of my master, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Prince of Believers, Ali ibn Abi Talib. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. O you who is the ship of salvation and the guide to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ما خاب الله من تمسك بكم وأمنا من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. The one who holds on to you will never go astray, and the one who comes to you has found heaven. We wish we were with you so that we may stand in between your hands and sacrifice ourselves for your cause. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. For the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل. Yesterday, my brothers and sisters, we spoke about another topic about more or less in the general topic of holistic Islam. I want to begin by apologizing. I'm sorry if I seem a little bit off, but as you know, yesterday's Amal, we were all up together, and our time zone is a little different. So bear with me if I'm tripping over my words as they say, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Jami. Yesterday, my brothers and sisters, we went back to the topic of holistic Islam. We went back to the topic of holistic Islam, and as we said, we're going to remember Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in these nights, but we're going to go back to the topic, inshallah, in light of Amir al-Mu'mineen, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us success in understanding Islam holistically through Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in these blessed nights. Tonight, my brothers and sisters, we want to ask a question. Another one of our deep questions. Yesterday we asked if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had emotions, and we discussed the topic thoroughly. Today we want to ask another question, also a general question along the same line, but very, very deep. Very, very deep. And the question is, why do you worship God? And I'm not talking to you about proving the existence of God. That's a totally different discussion. I'm not asking about proving the existence of God. Yet for some reason we put the two questions together. Why worship and his existence? We seem to put them together. The fact of the matter is they're actually very, very separate. They're on two different playing grounds altogether. So I ask you the question, I pose it. Why do you worship God? You know God exists, fine. Great. Why do you worship him? What draws the connection between the two? If you were ever asked that question, most of us probably were not asked that question per se. But if you were ever asked that question, it usually came from somebody who's just trying to argue. And a lot of these questions that we ask, my brothers and sisters, many people don't ask. And if somebody does ask them to themselves or to others, it's merely argumentative, or just argumental, or rather, just to spark an argument and debate. But the questions themselves, my brothers and sisters, are very important because they build, as we said before, they build the religion. They are the building blocks of our religion. They are the fundamentals. So the premise of the question is extremely important to understand the importance of the question itself. The premise of the question, my brothers and sisters, is actually very, very strong. There's a very strong incentive to ask the question. There's a very strong incentive to ask this question, my brothers and sisters, and that is this. We came forward and said that we must know that God exists so that we push away the possibility of harm. This was maybe 10 lectures ago. We said, for you to push away the possibility of harm after death, as you instinctually desire to do in every situation in life or in your existence as a whole, you must know that after death, you're not going to go to eternal punishment or eternal harm. And if it turns out that there's nothing after death, then you're safe in every situation. But you have to know that after death, this is the case. And so we said this prompts you logically to search for the truth. Jameel. You searched for the truth, you found God. Great. What drew the connection between your belief and this thing we call worship? What drew the connection? Is it knowing that he exists or it exists, whatever you found it to be there, regardless? Let's speak objectively here. What draws the connection between the two? Why would you have to believe him? Just the belief in his existence or its existence, whatever it may be. Isn't that enough? Isn't it enough just to believe that he exists, to understand that he exists, to understand that he gave you what you have been given, and that's enough? Just the mere understanding and knowledge of his existence, isn't that enough? What prompts a person then to worship? What prompts a human being to act on the belief that they had? Most people do. Most people do. But you will be surprised to know that there are some religions out there or some ways of life, because there's a difference of, an opinion about what religion actually means. So let's say ways of life, so we can encompass even philosophical ideas as well, which are debated as to whether they're religions or not. We're not going to get into that discussion. But ways of life, theories about the universe, theories about the world that ultimately bring about a way of life. These different theories, some of them do believe in a deity. Some of them believe that there is a God, that there's a deity, that there's an almighty power. They believe in the metaphysical spiritual realm, but they don't believe that a person must worship this deity. They don't believe that a person must act on that belief. Rather, as long as they're a good person and they have that belief, that's enough. That's enough. Now, whether they believe in hell or heaven, whether they have this same structure, system that we go by as Muslims or monotheistic Abrahamic religions, that's not necessarily important. The important thing is that they believe, but don't act on that belief. Some examples of these types of religions are Neo-Pythagoreanism, which is a philosophical idea that accepts the existence of God. Rather, it may even call for the existence of a God or of a deity, but it does not call for the worship of this deity. Also, some modern Sufi interpretations of Islam that come forward and say that a person, once they reach the stage of yaqeen, they don't have to worship anymore. They go to the Quran and they find the ayah that says, and worship God until you reach yaqeen. So if somebody has certainty in the existence of God, they don't have to worship him anymore. And so they come forward and say, some of them, that after a certain point, you don't have to worship God. And you not worshiping God at that point in time speaks of your level with God. So it's as if to them, you get to a point where you don't have to worship God anymore. And your status is elevated to a degree where your loyalty to Allah, your belief in God does not have to be translated into actions. These types of religions, these types of ideas are following the idea of allatrism, which is, as we said, belief, but no action. Belief in a deity, but no action. Jameel. So the question also begs itself. What drives you to worship? Put aside that connection. What draws the connection? Put that aside for a second. Let's talk on a personal level, me and you. What drives you to worship? Ask yourself that question. Why do I worship God? Is it cultural? Is it traditional? Is it merely because our parents showed us and told us, hey, this is what you have to do? Is it just by training? Is it subconscious? The same way that I pick up my water bottle with my right hand and not my left hand because mom and dad told me not to eat and drink with my left hand? Is it the same way that, for example, I'm told by my parents that when I walk into a room, I must say salam or hi or hello and greet others as salutations? Why we do it? They know that I came. But you find that if somebody comes in the room, we wait for them to say salamun alaikum, hello, hi, what's up, what's going on? We as human beings are trained to wait for a salutation of some sort. This is merely training. Why we do it is a social convention. Is worship social convention? Especially here in the West, where our parents have held on to those traditions because they want us to keep our identity in the West, as at least the religious ones of us. You find this very, very, very rooted in some of our families where religion is traditional and cultural because the parents have instilled it in that way. Like, is worship for us the same? Huge question, my brothers and sisters. Huge question. And we ask these questions now so that later on we don't ask them when we're 50, 60, 70. Not knocking anybody that's 50, 60, 70. But we ask them now so later on we don't have to ask them and question ourselves for them. Judge yourself before you are judged according to the hadith. Judge yourself before you are judged. حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا. Meaning of the hadith. So ask yourself. Let's think together, my brothers and sisters. So tonight, we want to answer this question. Why worship? Why worship? So we will ask the question, hopefully answering it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muhammad wa Muhammad. Before we begin, let's put some definitions down. Let's define what we're talking about. What is worship? What does worship entail? And just like the definition of religion, worship has probably been debated in its meaning for centuries. For centuries. Religion in its meaning and its definition, what is a religion, has been debated. Some have even come forward and said atheism is a religion. According to a very broad definition of religion, they said atheism is a religion. Like, worship also is very similar. What is worship? Some have come forward and said sacrifice. Some have come forward and said to show gratitude in any form. Some have come forward and said it is to pray in a specific manner. Some have come forward and said that it's to obey. Some have come forward and said that it's to humble oneself. Some have come forward and said just belief. Just belief and merely understanding is enough. And that in itself is a form of worship. Jameel. What is worship? How do we define worship, my brothers and sisters? The ulama come and define worship by saying any act can be considered worship if it fulfills two conditions. Two conditions. First condition is that the act itself is an act of humbling to a thing, an object, or to a being, to a human being, whatever it may be, to any other existent of any sort. The act of humbling, submission, and humiliation. One. Two. It is that this action is done with the belief that this thing, this deity, this God, this human being, whatever it may be, is the ultimate source of benefit and harm. Two conditions. Act of humbling, act of showing respect, humiliation, with the belief that this thing is the source of benefit and harm. Jameel. We say that the definition must be what we call jami' mani'. The definition must point to one idea, excluding all other ideas, and bringing in all of the meanings that are encompassed by that idea. When I say humbling oneself, well, we humble ourselves to a lot of things, to our parents, to the teacher, right? To a person we're listening to. The hadith says, when you listen to someone, it's as if you've worshipped them. You've given them a piece of yourself. Metaphorical, not broader, spiritual meaning. Put that aside. But in the end, even our religion tells us to humble ourselves to other human beings and other things. Jameel. How do we exclude all of those other things that we humble ourselves to? With the second condition, that behind this action, there's belief. There's belief that this thing is the source, ultimate source of benefit and harm. So someone who humbles themselves, mathalan, to their father or mother, because their father and mother benefit them ultimately. The mother takes care of the child. The father protects the family, provides for the family, etc., etc., etc. The mother as well, so we can be equal here as well. You humble yourself for what they have done for you, but you don't believe that they are the ultimate source of benefit and harm, yes? Because ultimately what they have given and provided is from another source and from an alternative source, and that is the deity that you worship. So this definition brings about the fullest meaning, in a sense, to worship, or at least the understanding of worship within Islam. Now that we understand the meaning of worship as a whole, I want you to keep the second condition in the back of your mind, because we're going to use it. We're going to use it later on in the lecture. Keep that one with you. Let's move on. After we have understood this, to answer the question, to begin understanding the question, we must understand this other point. Another introduction. Sheikh Ali Adibi, my teacher, he comes and says, Muqaddimah Thani. So the second introduction, the second prerequisite to understanding this. To every action that we commit, my brothers and sisters, every action that me and you commit, behind it, there are two things. There are two concepts. To every action, there is linked to it two concepts. Imagine this in your mind. It symbolizes something, this action. It symbolizes something on one hand and acts as a cause for an effect in the outside world. Stay with me. It's abstract, but stay with me. An act that I commit. That action, for the onlooker, for somebody looking at me acting, it symbolizes something. And for the universe as a whole, it acts as a cause for something to come about in the outside world. Simple. I'll give you an example. If I go to school, I get up and I go to school, and I go and I get a degree in engineering, for example. I finish my engineering degree, and then me and you sit down, we have an interview. You tell me, what does your education symbolize? I'll answer, my passion for knowledge. The value of knowledge in my eyes. Even if there are no jobs, I would still go and search for knowledge. I'd go learn. Even if it's not going to give me anything material, my passion for knowledge is what drove me to get my degree. And ultimately, once I have my degree in my hand, that degree and my act of pursuing that degree symbolizes my desire, passion for knowledge, and what I value in my life and how I believe my time should be spent. All of these things are symbolized through my action. Yes? If a brother protects his brother, what does that symbolize? Loyalty, brotherhood. These ideas are symbolized by our actions. Jami, going back to the degree example, engineering example. So then you ask me, and what is the effect of that degree? Or what is the effect of that education? Well, the degree itself, a job in the future, stability for my family, inshallah, if God wills. Yes, money, benefit for others, etc., etc., etc. So you found that your education symbolized something on one hand and act as a cause for something else on the other hand. You mean? In the concept of worship, before the concept of worship in Islam, our actions act in the very same way, no different. And worship is the exact same way. Worship, on the one hand, symbolizes something and acts as a cause for something in the outside world. To understand an action fully, you must understand these two. For you to understand the meaning of an action, you must understand these two. What it symbolizes, what it tells you about the actor, the person acting, the person doing the action, what it tells you about them, and ultimately how that act is going to change the universe. If you understand these two aspects, then you've understood the action altogether. You understood the meaning of the action. So understand what worship symbolizes and its benefits, and you will now understand why you worship. Jameel. Question. What does worship symbolize? Simply put, when you go to the riwayat, when you go to the Quran, and when you go to human logic, worship, my brothers and sisters, is always equated to giving thanks. When a person worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when a person worships God, that worship is the manifestation of the gratitude that they have for this being. When it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's the ultimate source of what? Benefit and harm. It's your moral obligation as a human being. It's in your moral compass. That compass that is infused with the definition of being a human being, to worship. Put worship aside. We're not going to use that word. Put worship aside. That word worship brings about an idea in our mind. Put that aside. To give thanks to this being that has given you everything. To the degree that if someone was to give you something and you just turn away and walk away, no matter what you've accomplished in your life, every human being will look down on you, because we as human beings hold objective morality. Objective morality. Whether you live in China, as I always say, you live in China, you live in Antarctica, or you live in America, there are things that human beings all naturally agree on as either good or bad, an obligation or a recommended action, something forbidden, something okay to do, etc., etc. We all believe in the fundamental ideas of what manifests, or fundamental things of what manifests good and bad for us, the meanings of good and bad. And one of the things that all human beings understand is to give thanks for the one that has given you. Worship symbolizes that gratitude. Worship manifests that gratitude, my brothers and sisters. And sometimes, my brothers and sisters, although this is obvious, some of you guys think, okay, Ahmad, it's obvious. Why are you so passionate, screaming at us right now? Sometimes, my brothers and sisters, the most obvious of things in our religion are the things that we don't pay attention to. And this is the meaning of this series. To talk about these obvious things that we are not asking about, that we are not discussing. As in, I'll give you an example. Let me ask you a question. Me and you, let's judge ourselves. I'm not judging myself and you're going to judge yourself. Last night in Amal Laylat al-Qadr, when we were doing the Amal, ask yourself, and let me ask myself, was it robotic? Subhanaka ya la ilaha illa ant al-ghawth 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 khallisna min al-nar ya Rab. By the 97th al-ghawth al-ghawth al-ghawth. By the 97th one. Was it merely robotic? Put that aside. Let me ask you another one about this. When someone says salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, is it merely robotic to say salawat? I mean, some of you right now, just without even thinking, salam salam, and you're just listening to. Look, our worship sometimes is robotic. It's robotic. It's just actions that we do. There are many reasons for that. Cultural, the subconscious aspect that we discussed, because we just do it constantly. And sometimes us doing this thing in just this routine, repetitive manner, we lose sight of why we do it and the meaning behind it. The meaning behind it. why it's there. To bring back that spiritual energy to our salat, my brothers and sisters, is the meaning to the salat, and it is a goal. It's a goal in itself, because not all worship is at the same level. Worship, my brothers and sisters, is what we call mafhum mushakkik. It's at levels. It's not just one blatant idea that doesn't have any levels and no degrees. No, it has levels and degrees. There are levels to worship. And that level is not by the action itself, rather the understanding and why that action is done, the intention. The riwayah says two people can be praying in the exact same way, yet the difference between the two is the difference between the heaven and the earth. Where one salat does not go away from the prayer mat, does not ascend from the prayer mat, although the one ascends to the seventh sky. Yet you look at both of them, they're doing the exact same thing. And each and every one of us pray differently. There are little things that we do that is different. Imagine two people, twins, twin brothers, twin sisters, whatever, praying the exact same way. One does not go away from the prayer mat, stays in the prayer mat. The other one ascends to the seven skies. Why? Because the degree of worship for one is not the same as opposed to the other. طيب, what defines the degree of worship? Hadith Ali ibn Abi Talib. Hadith Ali. Oh, when you say Hadith Ali alayhi salam, the whole body shakes. Ali. Look what Ali alayhi salam says. He says there are those that will worship God out of fear of hell. And that's the worship of the slave. Why? Why? They fear hell. Just like the slave fears the whip of the master. Ya Allah, I'll pray, just don't punish me. Master, I'll do the chores, just don't whip me. Slave. That is the worship of the slave. And then there are those that will worship God out of desire for heaven. And that's the worship of the business person, the businessman, businesswoman, the merchant. God, I will give you my prayer. Give me heaven. It's a business transaction. Sign a contract. Here you go. I'll give you heaven. I'll give you worship, rather. Give me heaven. Business person. And then there are those that will worship God out of thanks. And that is the worship of the free man. Yeah. And then there are those who will worship God out of thanks. And that is the worship of the free man. Free from everything restricting that person. Desire for heaven, fear of hell. No. If these things were erased, they would still pray. Would you still pray? We're judging ourselves. Let's ask ourselves this question. If there was no heaven tomorrow and no hell tomorrow, would you pray? Would I pray? Would I be wearing this? Would I be fasting, or would I drink water right now? Would I be in front of you? Sister, would you wear your hijab? Brother, would you observe your hijab? Ask yourself. Ask yourself. And then you'll know what level you are in. Honestly, that's the best way I can say it. You'll know where you are. It's not bad to be one of the first two. No, there's levels. And you were always climbing that ladder. Fine. But don't lose sight. Don't lose sight of the meaning of what your worship is to you. Don't let it be robotic. Do not make it robotic. And you see it. You see it, my brothers and sisters, where a person will hold a masbah and they're going, right? There's jokes made on this on the internet, but it's real life. You actually see it in the outside world. Like, you see it, people doing this. You know you're supposed to say subhanallah after each of these, right? Like, you're supposed to say it. We're just robotic. You're not thinking of what we're doing. We're just trained to be this way. Let our worship symbolize the gratitude that we have to Allah. What should I thank? Why should I thank? What is that thing that I should thank Allah Ta'ala for? Many things. All the blessings that He has given you. Allah Ta'ala speaks to Bani Israel and says what? اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم. Remember, speak of the ni'mah, speak of the blessing وَأَمَّا بِنَعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Speak of the blessings of Allah that He has given you. قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ. Who's the one? Say, who is the one that forbid the zina, the ornament, the decoration of God? Speak of that blessing. Many blessings. Begin to count them, and it's nice. Every day, every week, whatever. Sit with your family, sit with your children. If there's young children, very good exercise, by the way. Have them name 5 things they're grateful for. Beautiful exercise. But what's the most important thing? What's the most important thing? And this is also another spiritual understanding. The knowledge of Him. Be gracious for the knowledge of God. That you know God. That you know of His existence. Just let's go back in time. Before the existence of anything. When God was there alone. Now, how we understand that, what that means, and we don't understand fully what it means, but we know at one point God was alone. God was alone. Jameel. God was alone. Then what was existence? Existence as a whole. I mean, you're fasting right now, but just think with me right now. Your hearts are open after Laylatul Qadr. Think with me. God was alone. There was nothing around. There was nothing there. Then what was the realm of existence? This idea of existence, what was it? That didn't even exist. The ulama say God created existence as a whole. خالق الوجود ليس موجود بل هو خالق الوجود. One of the ulama comes forward and says. To say God, that God exists is an understatement. He's the one that created existence as a concept. Like, just that. Imagine you existing, being the first existent to understand God's beauty, to know God. That itself is a ni'mah, a blessing. That you know God. Not for the benefits that it gives you, not for heaven and hell. Put that aside. Put that aside. Just to know Allah. To know that He's there. To have the honor of being a servant of God, a slave created by God. That itself is a blessing. That itself holds meaning. Ultimately, to fall in love with God. To know that there's someone there worth your love. You know, people try and strive their whole lives to find love. To find love, to know that there's somebody there that's worthy of their love. Even if they can't get to them. Just to know that they're there, fine. God is there, is worthy of your love. Worthy of your gratitude, worthy of your thanks, worthy of knowing Him. That itself is enough. That's enough. Jameel. Let's move fast. And by the way, this stuff is not Sufism. No, this is Ahl al-Bayt. Talking to Ahl al-Bayt. Talking to Ali ibn Abi Talib, Imam al-Sadiq. There's more. I can read them for you, but I'm not going to. There's more. Go to Al-Kafi. Go to Bihar al-Anwar. Go to the other books that we have and read. Dua Jawshan Abu Hamza al-Thumali. Dua Abu Hamza al-Thumali is full. Dua Kumail. We take advantage of these. Look what Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says in Dua Kumail. What does he say? He says, لَأَنْ صَيَّرْتَنِي لِلْعُقُوبَاتِ مَعَ أَعْدَائِكَ وَجَمَعْتَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ أَهْلِ بَلَائِكَ وَفَرَّقْتَ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ أَحَبَّائِكَ فَهَبْنِي يَا إِلَهِي وَسَيِّدِي وَمَوْلَاي صَبَرْتُ عَلَى عَذَابِكَ فَكَيْفَ أَصْبِرُ عَلَى فِرَاقِكَ. Meaning, he says, oh God, if you put me in hell, we understood you put me in hell. You separated between me and you and those that you love. Fine, you separated between me and those that you love. You put me with those that you hate. I accept. You're going to separate me from you? That I can't bear. Burning my flesh, sure. Being separate from those you love, fine. Being with those that you hate, okay. But being separate from you, that's the ultimate punishment. Thank God for knowing. طيب, let's move on. If this is a rabbit hole, we go down this rabbit hole, we're not going to get out. طيب, what does it symbolize? Thanks. Jameel. What does it bring about in the outside world? What did we say? The effect. What did we say? We said worship, 2 conditions. Humbling oneself and humbling oneself with the belief that this thing or being, whatever it is, God, holds benefit and harm. طيب. If I'm humbling myself to the one that holds benefit and harm, and I'm giving thanks and gratitude to the one that holds benefit and harm for me, then ultimately, what is going to be brought about in the outside world as an effect is benefit in pushing away harm. And this idea is so deep. It's so deep that we can't delve into it now. But books of jurisprudence have been written on this idea, on this issue. We believe that the 5 ahkam, the 5 different types of rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presented to us, wajib, mustahab, halal, makruh, haram, these 5 are built on the idea of benefit versus harm. Wajib is the act that is obligatory on you because the benefit that it holds is one that you can't leave, like breathing. A human being breathing is a benefit that is so big that it's worth so much, you can't leave it. Tayyib, mustahab is something that holds benefit, but not to the degree where if you leave it, it's going to be harmful to you, like exercising. For example, not to say exercising is mustahab, but give you an example of how we understand. Exercising would be, in our understanding, like a mustahab action. It's good to do, but not to the degree of breathing for your health. Tayyib, what about halal? They say it's either something that is not associated directly with good or bad, benefit and harm, or something that the benefit and harm equaled out, like sitting on a bench, walking. Just an action in its general form, stripped away from any ethical value or understanding, in a sense, if you want to say it in that way, of any good, bad, harm, or good, harm versus benefit, etc. Jameel. Makruh is an act that is harmful, but not to the degree where someone who looks at you says you can't be doing it, should not be doing that. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to harm yourself, a harm that is irreversible. Like what? Like eating fatty foods, for example. Eating fries, for example. You can consider that like makruh. Type. Haram is one action that holds harm to the degree where the logical human being seeing you do it says you should not do it. You cannot do it. It's irreversible, like drinking poison. The amount of harm on the person from drinking bleach or poison, whatever, any type of poison there is so harmful to the person, is so hard on the body that no human being allows it to happen. And if any person does it, they have a psychological issue of some sort. They're not considered to be normal. There's something wrong there. Jameel. Our ahkam, which is ultimately the worship that we do, everything revolves around the ibadah, the worship. Our ahkam are ultimately there to push away harm and to bring about the benefit of the human being. And subhanAllah, look at the mercy of God. The mercy of God, my brothers and sisters, is something that you can never understand. Look at the mercy of God. He comes and says, show me gratitude. You ask him, Ya Allah, how am I to show you gratitude? By benefiting yourself. Look at the mercy of God. When the riwayah says that God is more merciful on his abid, on his servant, than the mother to her child, we understand why now. Just like the mother that tells her child, do your homework. That's how you thank me. If you want to thank me for everything, for holding you for 9 months, for bringing you into this world, childbirth, for staying up at night, for giving you food while I went hungry, for giving you water while I went thirsty. You want to thank me? Don't go get me a present. What am I going to do with your present? What am I going to do with your flower and your picture that you drew for me at school? Great, fine. Just go to school. You want to thank me? Just go to school. Same way. God is telling me, you want to thank me? Do what's beneficial to you. Here, I'll give it to you. I'll tell you what to do. Not just I'll tell you what to do. I'll write it down for you. Here, I'll give you a handbook. I'll write the handbook for you. Not just here. You want me to make it easier? I'll send you prophets. I'll send you 124,000 prophets. Is that enough? No. Okay, I'll send you 14 ma'sumin. I'll send you people to guide you. Just do it. Just do it. It's not for me. It's for ultimately what benefits you. Our religion, my brothers and sisters, is beautiful. Our religion is beautiful. Not just for what it teaches, but because we have imams. We have Ahlul Bayt. And what comes from Ahlul Bayt? The ulama, to come and tell us of these secrets. And I ran out of time, but there's so much more that we can discuss. And inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow, either discussing the little things here and there. I believe that's what we're going to do, inshallah. I do this as I go, by the way. Well, I'm just trying to see what fits best, and ultimately how I can serve you in the best possible manner, inshallah ta'ala. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. أسأله تعالى يعفو عنا ويغفر لنا ويرحمنا إنه نعم المولى ونعم النصير. والحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Let's recite salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.